All right, so we're done talking about the divisional round of the playoffs. We had our recap yesterday. It's Monday. We wanted to react. Hey, were the Bills cheaped out of the overtime victory? There's close games, all 4 games determined by a total of 15 points. All of that over. We are done. Stop talking about the past. Let's talk about the future and the AFC and NFC Championship, which we're going to be covering here today on this episode of Time2Football. Glad you guys are able to join us on this wonderful, marvelous, exuberating episode of Time2Football. My name is Hassan Khan, the host of this channel, and I'm glad that you guys are able to join us for this great Tuesday morning as you guys are live streaming this on YouTube, as well as listening to this on the go after we stream this on the podcast app. Whatever your platform of choice is, we encourage you guys to subscribe to the other platforms so you guys can stay up to date with all the content that we come out with. And we're very, very appreciative that you guys are joining us. You guys can go ahead and leave your comments down below in the live chat. Actually, as a matter of fact, we've got nameless person saying, nameless person has commented before actually, saying, good morning, go 49ers. And then we've got Cole joining us as well. Do you have any serious talks around the NFL about changing the overtime rules? Yeah, so that was a topic of discussion. And actually, as a matter of fact, I had a lot of backlash on social media. You know what's funny is on Instagram Reels, you can only keep a video 1 minute long. 1 minute long. I have every single counter argument with anything that anybody comes up with. Oh, it's the defense's job to stop the Chiefs' defense or the Chiefs' offense. Oh, is it? Well, then it's the Chiefs' defense job to stop the Bills' offense. Why not just give everybody a chance? Hey, why does a coin toss determine if it's Chiefs' offense versus Bills' defense? And that's your fate. That determines if you go to the Super Bowl or not. Why not just be Chiefs' offense, defense, special teams versus Bills' offense, defense, special teams? But I couldn't say all of that in my social media video. It had to be a minute long. And so then you get a lot of comments saying like, oh, this video sucks. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. Like the overtime rules are fine. And then you have some people 50-50 pretty much saying, hey, no, yeah, it should make a lot of sense. We should give every team a shot. Are there any serious talks? I highly doubt it. And going into the offseason, there's a panel with all the owners where they have these discussions and they meet up and they're like, hey, what are some rules that we can change throughout the offseason? I highly doubt it's going to get approved that each team should have possession. Because given that the Chiefs were the ones to favor that rule and that change in overtime back in the day when they lost to the New England Patriots in the 2018 AFC Championship game, and Patrick Mahomes, the MVP, was not able to even get on the field, the Chiefs were like, hey, that needs to change. And then 31 other teams were like, nah, that does not need to change. That does not need to change. But, so because of that, because 31 other teams just 3 years ago denied that rule change, I have a inkling that nothing's going to change, unfortunately, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And you're saying I saw like ESPN and SportsCenter tweet and post on Instagram to get people's thoughts on it. Yeah, I mean it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. Anyone else that says, hey, no, it doesn't need to change. It needs to stay the way it is. Hey, luck. That's luck. You're depending the game on luck at that point. But I know that you guys have a lot of comments and a lot of things you guys want to say. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, number one. And number two, you can go ahead and be vocal on the show if you wanted to. I want to go ahead and remind you guys that you can call into our Discord. We're going to have a whole segment where we're going to be answering some phone calls, some Discord calls, actually, as a matter of fact, in the next 25 minutes or so. So if you want to continue to watch the show, go ahead. But in the next 20 minutes or so, I'll remind you guys, I'll pull up this graphic once again and say that you can join our Discord server. The link is in the description. And then join that waiting room channel underneath voice channels. And then I'm going to unmute people, talk with you guys, and then we get to hear your thoughts and your opinions on anything that we talk about. Any question it is, any topic, whatever you want to talk about. Leave your thoughts and your comments in that Discord call. But before we get into everything, we have NFL news and notes that we want to talk about. We have ranking the best teams that are remaining in the NFC and the AFC Championship game, which teams are the best. And then we're going to be answering some questions from the live chat. But every Tuesday, what we do is we give out the most prestigious award on the show, the Hungriest Player of the Week. Hungriest Player of the Week, the one that wanted it the most. This does not go to the person with the best stats. If it was the person with the best stats, you could say Gabriel Davis. 201 yards, 4 touchdowns. If the Bills would have won, Gabriel Davis would have been Hungriest Player of the Week. Even though he had the best stats, it's not about the best stats why we would choose Gabriel Davis. It's because he took advantage of the opportunity. He's the one that wanted it the most, and he sent the Bills to the AFC Championship game. However, the Bills did not win. The Chiefs won. Okay, well, then maybe Patrick Mahomes. He had a very good day. Tyreek Hill had a very good day. Well, not these guys. It's not about the best stats, because those guys are well known. We know that those guys are going to perform. We know that they're very good players. It's about choosing the player that is the underdog, that you would not have expected to win, let alone have a decent game and take advantage of their opportunity. So I'm going to name you a player that you guys may not know who he is unless you're a 49ers fan, and that is Jordan Willis. Hassan, who the heck is Jordan Willis? So he's a defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers. He had 2 tackles against the Green Bay Packers, but this is why he's the Hungriest Player of the Week. Special teams player, blocked punt, where Hufanga was able to recover it and run it in for a touchdown, giving the 49ers a tie ball game where then Jimmy Garoppolo and company later on could march down the field and Robbie Gould could kick them to the NFC Championship game. But Jordan Willis was solely responsible for putting the team on his back when it mattered the most and sent the 49ers to that NFC Championship game, and that is why he is the Hungriest Player of the Week. He's the one that wanted it the most. Nobody knew about him, and he showed up big when it mattered. Congratulations, Jordan Willis. You win absolutely nothing except this honor on the show that you are the Hungriest Player of the Week. NFL news and notes for today, January 25th, 2022. All right, so this is a little nugget that I heard from Sean Landry, who's a regular on the show. Occasionally he comes on here and there and gives his take on the NFL topics, especially the Saints, because he's a big Saints fan. And he has some news that he actually reminded me of that I actually did not hear about. It was a little bit underneath the radar, but he wanted to go ahead and let me know about it. Gail Benson, the owner of the New Orleans Saints, does not know the future on Sean Payton. And this isn't saying, oh, he's in trouble, he's going to get fired. No, this is actually Sean Payton himself saying, I am non-committal. I don't know if I'm going to be playing or not, or if I'm going to be coaching or not. Could be retiring, could be pulling up Bruce Arians, where 2013 to 2017, Bruce Arians was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and then he retired, and then he came back a year later to coach the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This could be the very same thing, the exact same thing with Sean Payton. Now, Sean is going to join us, Sean Landry, that is, not Sean Payton, that'd be wild. But Sean Landry is going to join us on this show to talk more about the Saints and the contract situation and how it affects the New Orleans Saints, how it affects Sean Payton. He has $45 million left on his contract, I believe, and it runs through 2024. He's going to give his analysis and his insight on that and the whole situation, but that's on Thursday's show. But I just want to go ahead and mention that, yes, Sean Payton, it's in the conversation that he may not return for the New Orleans Saints in 2022, which would be wild and a big loss for the Saints. We got some NFL retirement news. Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Okay, so we know about Tom Brady said, hey, I'm not even thinking about this retirement decision 5 minutes after the game. He was asked about retirement after the game against the Los Angeles Rams, and he was like, hey, I'm just thinking about the game right now. I'm not really thinking about my future, which makes sense. Well, he was asked later on in the Let's Go podcast. I think that's a podcast hosted by Larry Fitzgerald. I might be wrong. Tom Brady's a part of it, and it might be Tom Brady's whole podcast. I don't know. But on Monday, he stated, Yeah, it's going to be coming down to the decision whether it's going to be, you know, is it good for my family or not? My family is going to be the one to really have most of the say and make the decision. It's not really much about me. So, yeah, he's just looking out for his family and just wanted to update you on that. Robert Gronkowski, on the other hand, may retire going into 2022. It's going to be a decision based upon of where I'm at in a couple weeks. So maybe in a couple weeks, we could be hearing the news about Robert Gronkowski retiring for a second time from the National Football League. Some head coaching interviews that we want to update you guys on. We have come down to the finalists for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator of the Jaguars, is a finalist, or defensive coordinator of the Colts is a finalist for the head coaching job for the Jags, as well as Byron Leftwich is also a finalist. Those two guys, Eberflus, Leftwich, are going to be one of those guys is going to be the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, because the Jaguars today are going to be completing their second interview with Byron Leftwich. They have high interest in him, former quarterback, drafted in the first round by the Jaguars back in the mid-2000s, and they have high hopes for Byron Leftwich moving forward. Some other finalists for some head coaching jobs. The Denver Broncos have narrowed it down to 3 candidates as finalists for their job. Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. And Kevin O'Connell, the offensive coordinator of the LA Rams. Those 3 guys, Hackett, Quinn, O'Connell, 3 finalists. Hackett, offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. Dan Quinn, coached the Falcons to a Super Bowl, was fired, and had a great season with the defense that they have in the Dallas organization. And then Kevin O'Connell, former quarterback, actually drafted by the New England Patriots in the 3rd round of the 2008 draft. Did not get a shot in the NFL, not a big shot, and he has worked his way up in the coaching ranks from his time with the Jets as a quarterback to the Washington Redskins at the time. I cursed, I'm sorry. And now he's the offensive coordinator of the LA Rams. The Chicago Bears have completed their interview process with Matt Eberflus, and I think that might be it. Dan Quinn also completed his interview process with the New York Giants. But that's your head coaching updates for today. Deebo Samuel, some injury news. Hurt his knee on a teammate's helmet this past week. He seems like he's going to be fine. Kyle Shanahan says that they're hoping that Deebo Samuel can practice on Wednesday, which I don't think there's any indication that Samuel could miss this game. I mean, if it was like a week 8 random matchup, sure, he could miss it. But if it's the playoffs, it's the NFC Championship game, and you're just in a little bit of discomfort, maybe you're limited on snaps, but you can play. And Deebo Samuel more than likely is going to be playing. Trent Williams, this is a big blow for the offense of the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams is dealing with an ankle injury, and he is questionable to play. Now, they took x-rays on him, and he is they are negative. The x-rays are negative. So Trent Williams more than likely should be able to go. He should be able to tough it out. I mean, did you see the 49ers play the Packers and how they utilized Trent Williams as pretty much a tight end that didn't catch? And when I say that, I mean, when a tight end blocks, he motions a lot, he runs fast, they pull him. He was moving like a big guy like him. I would be worried if I was facing Trent Williams at any point. But yeah, he is dealing with an ankle injury. X-rays came back negative, so let's monitor his status moving forward. Rams offensive tackle Joe Noteboom is dealing with a pec strain. He is day-to-day. However, Andrew Whitworth is able to return, dealing with an ankle injury that kept him out last week. He more than likely is going to be returning in the NFC Championship game. Taylor Rapp, the safety of the Los Angeles Rams, is dealing with a concussion, a little bit more serious, but he's been cleared, and he should be playing against the San Francisco 49ers. Bruce Arians, a little bit of news here. If Byron Leftwich were to leave for a head coaching gig, Bruce Arians would call plays if Byron Leftwich were to leave. So, if Bruce Arians, or if Byron Leftwich gets a head coaching job, which more than likely is going to happen this year, then Bruce Arians would return to calling the plays. He did it from 2013 to 2017 with the Arizona Cardinals. Until halfway through 2017, he gave the play call duties to Byron Leftwich. And then moving to Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich has been calling the plays. But that is your NFL news and notes for today, Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. Man, the NFC and the AFC Championship game are coming up, and I am very, very excited about both games. Should be two very good games regardless. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and let you guys know what those games are. I mean, if you guys already don't know, which you should, let's just go ahead and preview these games. The Cincinnati Bengals, for the first time since the 1980s, will be advancing to the AFC Championship to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, who make their fourth straight AFC Championship appearance. The Cincinnati Bengals, more than likely, a lot of people have been saying they shouldn't be here, but Joe Burr and company have been proving that they have that swagger. They run the North, winning the division, beating the Titans, beating all the teams in the way, including the Raiders, to get to this point. For the Chiefs, thrilling overtime victory against the Buffalo Bills, and they are in this position. Final four for the AFC Championship. Who is going to advance? Over on the NFC side, we've got a lot to talk about there. For the NFC Championship, the San Francisco 49ers will face the Los Angeles Rams in this NFC West battle. 3-0 could be the record that the 49ers have against the Los Angeles Rams, as Deebo Samuel was motioning the sweep, a motion against the Rams earlier when they beat them 2-0 this season. For the Rams, they look like one of the best teams in the playoffs. However, the Achilles heel could be the San Francisco 49ers, who have been surprisingly doing great against some high-powered offenses, including the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Rams in Week 18 in that 17-point comeback. Some good games coming up this weekend, but what we want to talk about in this segment was ranking the teams. The four remaining teams, who's the worst team, who's the best team. We're going to start from number 4 going down to number 1. Before I say who the worst team is, the second worst team, I'm not saying that these teams are bad. All these teams are deserving of making the postseason. However, given the amount of talent that's on each team, I just want to go ahead and say which teams have the most talent and have the best shot at making the Super Bowl, not discrediting any team at all. First, to start off with the team that I would say, very good team, coached really well, but as far as talent goes, I got to go with the San Francisco 49ers as the fourth best remaining team. And here's why. Let's look at the pros and the cons of all these teams. The pros, coaching. Oh my goodness, the coaching has been excellent. And this doesn't stem from just last week's game against the Green Bay Packers, but wild card weekend against the Dallas Cowboys, Week 18 against the Los Angeles Rams. They have been coached really well by Kyle Shanahan, but the person that I'm most impressed with in the coaching staff is DeMeco Ryans, who is not as much talked about as a head coaching candidate as other candidates out there. I know the Minnesota Vikings interviewed Ryans for a head coaching position, but Ryan should get more credit because of how great this defense has been against those high-powered offenses that we mentioned, against the Rams, the Cowboys, and the Packers. They have kept them alive in this postseason, and now they are advancing to the NFC Championship. So the coaching is a big pro, as well as the offensive line. It does not matter who's the running back at that point. You could have Jeff Wilson, you could have Elijah Mitchell, you could have Deebo Samuel, and they will perform well. But speaking of Deebo Samuel, that's another pro. Just himself as a player. He's one of the best offensive players in the league. And I'd be surprised if he's not a candidate, at least, for Offensive Player of the Year, because he can get it done on the ground. He can get it done through the air as well, passing the football. He can get it done catching and receiving the football as well. Deebo Samuel himself is a weapon, and he makes grown men look silly. So those are the pros for the 49ers. Now, the cons for them, their secondary. Their secondary is going to be, well, the secondary for all four of these teams need a lot of help. But the 49ers secondary, definitely, they need some help. They need some help in stopping some players. We talked about DeMeco Ryans. Recently, he's been doing a great job, so the secondary has been stepping up, but it's still an Achilles heel for the 49ers. Their pass game with Jimmy Garoppolo, it can't go toe-to-toe with all the other remaining teams. The Rams, the Chiefs, the Bengals, those teams are known for top 5, top 10 passing games. For the 49ers, they don't really operate that way, which is okay. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo can do what he needs to do to win the game. But if you get behind for any sort of reason and you need to come back, Yes, you proved it in a 17-point comeback against the Los Angeles Rams, but is that really feasible week in and week out? So that's the only thing that I'm really concerned about as far as the passing game goes for the 49ers. But ranking the teams, I would say out of all the remaining teams, the 49ers rank in at number 4. Moving on to number 3, it's another away team in the championship games. The Cincinnati Bengals, I would say, are number 3, and this is kind of saying something because the Bengals are actually a really good team. So that should tell you the Chiefs and the Rams are going to be 1 and 2. How good of a team, how good teams they are, how much talent they really have. For the Bengals, their pass game, the pros. The pros for the Bengals, their pass game, obviously, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, CJ Uzomah, mixing everybody else, mixing as well. They have been good all season long. So the Bengals pass game, definitely a huge pro for them. Their offense in general, even the run game with Joe Mixon, who's really stepped it up and I would say has had the best season of his career thus far at 25 years old. Now, the cons of the Cincinnati Bengals, I thought we covered this already this season. I thought we fixed it up. But the offensive line needs some help. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm rooting for the Bengals offensive line a lot because we actually did a documentary before he got drafted on Hakeem Adeniji. We had the opportunity to go film him, to interview him. So you could go back on the channel and watch that documentary. Just type in Hakeem Adeniji, Time2Football. You'll find it. So I'm rooting for the offensive line. I'm rooting for my boy who worked his way up from a 6th-round pick all the way to a starting offensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. Last week, however, the offensive line was in shambles, gave up 9 sacks to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans' defense is ferocious in the pass rush. So maybe, hopefully, it was just that, fingers crossed. But all season long, the Bengals' offensive line has looked better. And it looked like Jamar Chase was the right choice instead of people saying, oh, well, you should draft an offensive lineman. No, Jamar Chase ended up being a great pick. Offensive line stepped it up themselves. They didn't need that much help as it is. But from last week, the offensive line was a con. And then the secondary, I'm going to mention that again. I think the defense in general gives up a lot of yards on the ground and through the air as well. But the secondary for the Cincinnati Bengals can give up a lot of yards through the air. Moving on to number 2, who is the second best team remaining in the postseason? Man, this team could be number 1. They really could. But I'm going to go ahead and place them at number 2, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. And here's why. The pros for them, the passing offense. Patrick Mahomes, we know how good Tyreek Hill, how Travis Kelce. Like, I was talking to someone yesterday about how, okay, well, you can't really play prevent defense against the Chiefs when they're coming back against the Buffalo Bills because we know that prevent defense doesn't really work in the NFL, but you can't really blitz Patrick Mahomes because he's going to either escape out of it and run with the football, as he showed against the Buffalo Bills, or you're going to leave Tyreek Hill, who's one of the fastest receivers in the NFL, one-on-one, or Travis Kelce one-on-one, who's one of the big-bodied best tight ends in the NFL. You can't do that. So it's really hard to stop this pass game, and that is a huge pro for the Kansas City Chiefs. The other thing, coaching. I mean, winning all of your games except one in the last 11 games or however long the streak is, that is credited to the coaching as well. Andy Reid has done a very good job. Eric Bieniemy as well has done a very good job. And the defense, even though at times they give up some big plays, they have done a good job when it matters the most. Now for the cons. Speaking of that defense is a con for the Chiefs. They won't give up a lot of points usually, but they'll give up a lot of yards through the air, and especially some good teams against the Chargers all season long, against the Bills last week. When the competition steps up, the Chiefs defense tends to struggle against stopping the pass game and the run game. So with the competition getting stiff against the Bengals, against potentially the Rams or the 49ers that they face in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a con for the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs. And another con is the run game. I know that the run game has been looking good with Jerick McKinnon, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. Darrell Williams has been out with a toe injury. But this run game isn't really known to be a threat on the ground. Like, it's good enough, kind of like going back to the 49ers pass game. Like, it's good enough to get the job done. But when it really matters, when you really need them the most, can they really step up? And that's the same question that I have for for the Chiefs and their run game. That's why I have the run game down as a con. So they're the second best team remaining. And then the last team that is remaining, the Los Angeles Rams. I personally believe that they are the best team remaining in the postseason at this point. The pros, the pass game, we know about them. The run game as in general as well. That's why I say the pro is the whole offense in general. It's probably the most well-rounded offense remaining in the postseason. You have a pass game with MVP candidate Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. They have a connection. They can get it done. You have a run game. Hey, Darrell Henderson was looking good this season. Sony Michel was looking good this season. And now Cam Akers, the last couple of games, has been looking pretty decent. It doesn't matter who really is behind that offensive line. They can get it done in the run game. So the whole offense in general, the most well-rounded offense remaining, and that's why I have the Rams ranked in as the number one best team. That is a huge pro for them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we know about Aaron Donald getting that pressure in the pass game, stopping the run in the run game. They can get it done on defense. Now, speaking of defense, that's also their con. Even though in the front four, in the trenches, they might be decent, in the back, in the secondary, gives up some big plays here and there. And now they lost Jordan Fuller. They bring in Eric Weddle. It still isn't enough. They've been giving up some big plays all season long in the secondary, and that could hurt them against some teams with high-powered offenses. We talked about the Chiefs that could face in the Super Bowl, the Bengals that could face in the Super Bowl. Maybe this week against Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G has been known to throw for 300 yards against the LA Rams, so there's no guarantee to stop them. So that's a con that I would say. But, I mean, honestly, that's probably the only con for the Los Angeles Rams. Other than that, I mean, I think they're, I hate to keep saying this, the most well-rounded team in the playoffs remaining. So, to recap, the best teams remaining in the postseason. Number 1, LA Rams. 2, Kansas City Chiefs. 3, Cincinnati Bengals. And 4, the San Francisco 49ers. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts down below. Love to hear your opinions on who you think is the best teams remaining in the postseason. All right, guys, it is that time where you guys can call in as well. Call into the show via Discord. Join the waiting room under the Voice Channels channel. Click the link in the description to join the server, then click on Voice Channels. Just wait right there, hang out there, and then I'll be selecting a couple of people to join us on air if anyone were to call in. But yeah, now is the time for the live chat. You guys can go ahead and leave your comments and your thoughts in the live chat down below, and I'll go ahead and get with you guys. Speaking of which, we got some NFL news before we get to the live chat that we want to go ahead and update you guys on. The Titans fired linebackers coach Jim Haslett and assistant special teams coach Matt Edwards. So they are changing ship. They're trying to make some changes around here in the National Football League for the Tennessee Titans. Let's see if you guys have been calling in. We don't have anyone yet, so I encourage you guys to go ahead and click that link, and you guys can join in if you guys want. But let's go ahead and acknowledge the live chat that we have here. Cole saying, be right back, got a meeting, but I'll be back. I don't know if you're back yet, but I'll just go ahead and answer your questions and talk with you if you want to go ahead and chat. You're saying, any news with Rodgers and him leaving Green Bay? Also, just curious, any more player news going around the NFL with trades and people shifting teams? So with Green Bay, Matt LaFleur has come out and said, absolutely, 100%, we want Aaron Rodgers to be a Green Bay Packer until he retires. And that's what he said in the last 24 hours. However, there's no big news out there saying like, oh yeah, Rodgers is leaning this way or leaning that way. There's no guarantee just yet. But he did say, I will say about Devonte Adams, Matt LaFleur seemed a little bit more hopeful that they can retain Devonte Adams, who's going to be a free agent coming up this season, more so than he was about Aaron Rodgers. He said, yeah, I'm hopeful. We actually sat down with Devonte, talked things out, and they said they're hopeful that they could get a deal done. I don't know what that means. Whenever a coach says that they're hopeful about something, I don't put in a lot of stock into it because that doesn't mean that they're, hey, we're guaranteeing this is going to happen. It just means I hope it happens. So, any news around the NFL with trades and people shifting teams? Not so much. Not so much anymore. I did talk about yesterday. It was a little bit of a tidbit nugget, but it wasn't really that big. But David Najoku has been talked about returning to the Cleveland Browns. He has expressed interest in returning to the Cleveland Browns, which would be interesting because Najoku would be a highly sought-out free agent tight end, I feel like, in the National Football League. If he were to go to another team. They already have Austin Hooper. Their offense doesn't really operate using the tight end that much. I mean, it does in retrospect with tight end targets versus wide receiver targets, but in the pass game in general, the Cleveland Browns aren't really known to be a pass-heavy team. But David Najoku has expressed interest in returning to the Cleveland Browns. Hassan, I have one thing to say. I really love your channel and your content since 2 years. Oh, appreciate it. I also love your starts assists. Appreciate it. Could you do them for every single matchup next season, sorted by positions? Okay. Yeah. Let me actually go ahead and I'm going to screenshot this on my iPad. There we go. And then let me go ahead and save this and just kind of crop it so I have your comment. So I can just go ahead and take that feedback into consideration, and then it'll be saved in my photos. Yeah, I love feedback, man. I love it. There has actually been some talks, and actually on the Discord, you can go ahead and follow us on there if you aren't already a follower on there. And I'll post on YouTube on the community tab as well when you type out a text or a post, some announcements that I'm going to be making. So I appreciate your feedback about the starts and sits, and I'll definitely consider that. Like, I don't know my plan for fantasy football throughout the season, next season, like while the season is going on. I know that throughout the offseason, I'm doing like a weekly update from the start of free agency all the way through OTAs. I'm going to update you guys on every single beat reporter. What are they saying about every single player in OTAs? Who's popping off? Who's looking bad? How that's going to affect the fantasy football rankings. So just literally watch one video a week, and that's it, and you'll be a stud at fantasy football. So pretty much what I do in the offseason to prepare and create my draft rankings, I'm just making that public. I'm just recording myself making that and letting you guys know how I'm making the rankings. So that's what I'm doing with fantasy football throughout the offseason. Moving on for next season, there's a couple things that I thought about. I thought about rankings, like tiers being starts and sets instead of just like, hey, picking 5 players that you may want to start, 5 players you may want to sit. I thought about like, okay, these are absolute must starts in every league. You got for running backs like Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, whoever else it may be, Ezekiel Elliott, like whatever. Like you got to start them. And then there's the next tier where it's like, all right, if you're in a 4 to 6 team league, you got to start these next players, which is like David Montgomery or Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, whatever it may be. And then it's like the next tier. It's like, all right, if you're an 8 to 10 team league, this is a tier of players that you have to start. And it could be like, this week, James Conner or whoever. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but I thought about that as well. But I'll take your feedback into consideration. Rodgers saying, Atlanta Braves won after like 40-something years. Georgia win after 40-something years. I see a theme there. So maybe the Bengals will win because they haven't been in a while. Yes. My hometown, Atlanta Braves. Chop on. Oh, that's racist. Hey, my Georgia Bulldogs. Go dogs. Sick 'em. I see a theme there. In the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons rise up. One day when I'm 70 with grandkids, the Falcons are going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, so there's a theme here. 40-something years. That it takes 4 decades for a team to win. So maybe the Bengals got this one in the bag. They beat the Chiefs earlier this season, but it was by a field goal. So they're capable of beating them, but will they beat them again? I don't know. We'll have to see. But if you guys are not joining us in the Discord, I'm going to go ahead and sign off at that point. I don't think there's really much left to say. But I appreciate you guys joining us for this episode of Time2Football. Again, very, very appreciative of everyone joining us. And make sure you guys subscribe to this channel if you guys aren't ready subscribed. I feel like in order to chat, you have to subscribe to this channel. But if you're just kind of lurking and you're not chatting with us, number 1, chat with us every week, every day, as a matter of fact. And 2, leave your comments down below. Subscribe to us. Keep us up to date. With all that said, thank you guys so much for joining us. And remember, sick 'em. Woo, 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 woo.